So if you notice here already, Estrada's looking to counter Bam's jab with the left hook. The reason why the left hook works so well against the jab is the same way that a left hook works well against a right hand. The only difference is Bam's in the southpaw stance. So he tried to counter Bam's jab to the body with a left hook, and he's also countering the Bam's jab to the head with a left hook as well. Okay, so what Bam is known for is something called shifting. It's just a technique or a trick when it comes to footwork. But first and foremost, just understanding that tricks are just the foundations of individual skills combined together. So a shift is changing positions and angles with your feet, but it all stems from footwork. It's your hands are the deliverer of the power and the deliverer of the punch. That's how you score. However, how he gets in position to get this shot is with his feet. And then also, if we look at these jabs, these are not hard jabs. They're just touches, just to get himself in position. Magician sleight of hands. You worry about this jab while I get in position to throw my big rear hand. We'll watch it again. Really good. But also as well, once again, Estrada's a pro. He blocks the shot. But if we're talking about engagements and scoring, to the untrained eye, maybe one judge sees this as a landing blow. Maybe another judge sees it as partially blocked. But at the end of the day, this is punches thrown, and this is how you score in boxing. That's beautiful right there from Bam. That's footwork again. He gets credit for his shift, but the simple part of the footwork is just taking that half step back, allowing Estrada to lunge all the way in, and then he follows up with a nice little three-piece because Estrada doesn't finish his engagement all the way, and he doesn't end his punches and stop Bam from punching once he's done punching. So we look at that again. And Estrada's good again. He looked to go ahead and counter as Bam was shooting his shots. But what does that mean for you guys? Put an emphasis on your footwork. Footwork, 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 and footwork, and footwork again. And the easy thing to say is like, okay, yes, footwork, but how? I have a bunch of drills that you guys are able to do to improve your footwork. I'll probably do a drill talk video where we discuss how to improve our footwork based off of what we're seeing in here and any other tidbits that we see where we can actually have drills that you would do on a consistent basis to improve these skills. Because right now, you don't have time to think about, am I doing my footwork correct? You just have to complete the task, which is hitting and not getting hit. So you have to do all of this before you get to the fight, but we just get to see the application of these skills at a high level. So what was the difference in how Bam was able to counter Estrada after he was done punching and how Estrada wasn't able to counter Bam after he was done punching? We'll look at it, and then we'll talk about it, and then also having you understand that this is something that you need to be doing as a fighter as well. Ending your engagements, allowing your opponent not to punch you after you're done punching. So Estrada right away, he throws that right hand to the body of Bam. If you see his glove is right there, so he does look to go ahead and touch right away. However, Bam follows up with 3 shots to be able to score. Once again, maybe to the untrained eye, some of these punches landed, some of them don't, but Estrada threw 1 shot, Bam threw 3 back. And Estrada threw another one. So if we're talking about punch count for that entire engagement, Bam threw 3, Estrada threw 2. Estrada's moving back. You guys be the judge, but it looks like Bam wins that engagement. And he ends it with a jab. They take a couple steps back, and he throws a rear hand. So now we're looking at 5-2 from a punch count, right? So that's the difference that we're looking at right now. As soon as Bam is done throwing that left hand, he covers up to protect the space that he just came from, right? So he finishes that left hand. Once again, he is southpaw. So when he finishes his left hand and he turns that shot all the way over, his head is now over his right toe. That means that he needs to protect his head over his right toe. So he puts his left hand up because most of the time that means that a right hand is coming. And so he's preparing himself to potentially get hit. And that isn't part of the entire combination. you do that all together the same way you would throw a 1-2-3, the same way you would start. So it's set up, what you do in between, and what you do after. That is the entirety of the combination. It's not just what you do with your hands. Little jab games back and forth. These are pros once again. So just what are they trying to see? They're trying to find out information, right? They don't want to open up right away because they're both counterpunchers. So as soon as one of them opens up to throw a big shot, the other one's looking to counter and throw punches back. So you can't just commit right away. You have to make sure it's safe to do what you're doing and get information with these jabs without taking a big of a risk. And they both do a good job of that. And if you see here, before any big shots were thrown, because there really weren't any, they were jabbing back and forth with each other. Touch, touch. Shoot a jab, touch, touch. Touch, touch. Round over. Just getting some information. So Gallo finally did it back. This is round 2 right now. So if you notice, he did similar, if not the same thing that Bam did earlier when he threw that left hand and Bam ended on his right toe. Now if you see Gallo or Estrada do the same thing, he's going to throw this right hand and on his front foot, which is his left toe, and he's going to put his right glove up to see if Bam's going to throw anything back. Bam does it, so what he chooses to do in that same engagement is throw a left hook off of it, which is good craft. That's good work right there. I mean, Bam's a pro as well, so he understood that the next shot was coming. But if we're talking about what to do in an engagement, throwing that right hand, protecting yourself, and then throw another shot, that's it. That's good work. And then now we get to see what Bam is known for. We get to see his shifts. We get to see his angle changes and how it benefits him in a fight. And so we'll watch it again. So why does that work, right? When we fight linear, we block punches according to them coming from in front of us, right? When someone is on the side of us blocking is not the same way as if we were fighting linear, which means hooks come like straights and straights come like hooks. So if you notice here, when Bam shifts, he shoots a rounded punch that lands and gets to Gallo. And if you notice, this wobbles him as well. So what does that mean for you guys? Once again, footwork, footwork, footwork. This is the application of the skill. It is very hard to apply the skill if you don't know how to do the skill itself. So once again, the tricks are just a combination of the individual skills stacked on top of each other. Bam is always active on the defensive end. And what I mean by that is he's using a combination of moving his head, using his feet, blocking with his hands to always see how once Estrada's done punching, how can he punch him back? Because when it comes to boxing, a lot of people say, okay, hit and don't get hit. But the broken down version of that is, as I'm trying to hit you, don't get hit. When I'm done hitting you, don't get hit. And we have different skills to complete that theory. And that's what Bam does really well. He has really good eyes. But it all stems from the footwork. You got to get yourself in position to throw shots. You got to get yourself out of position from getting shots thrown at you. But once again, this is application. This is completing the task. Yeah, he's downloading this information, but once again, when we talk about engagements in boxing, Estrada's winning these engagements. Yes, Bam's getting information, but if Estrada is on the level that you would like to be as a fighter, there's not much information that Bam can get where you're still not winning these engagements, because you score in boxing by landing shots and throwing punches, clean shots, and not getting hit with clean shots. Another one, once again, and this works. A lot of the reason why it works with Loma, a lot of the reason why it works with Usyk, a lot of the reason why it works with Tank as well. Any Southpaw versus Orthodox fighter. But if you guys are aware, anything that a Southpaw does to an Orthodox fighter can do to a Southpaw. They can get these angles. The only difference is the Southpaw does it more often because they have more practice at it in sparring. They have more practice at it in mitt work with their coach, because most of the time as a Southpaw, you are always fighting an Orthodox fighter. Southpaws have the same issues that Orthodox fighters have. They don't fight a lot of Southpaws. That's why when a Southpaw fights a Southpaw, they kind of run into issues because they don't have that same opportunity to pivot off their front foot the same way that they do against an Orthodox fighter. So what I mean by that, if we're looking at a visual standpoint, as soon as Bam's going to throw this left hand, he's going to end up on his right toe, which is over Estrada's left shoulder. And if Estrada dips to the right side, which is his right toe, now Bam can take that angle on the outside because he doesn't have to worry about any punches coming at him. And this is footwork that's weaponized, right? Footwork in order to be able to throw punches, because most people assume footwork is getting out of range and just getting out completely and not being able to throw back. This is just understanding your range enough as how small of the steps that you need to be getting out with. Just small amount, so that way you can get back in to be able to throw shots. So we'll end that at the end of that clip. That's really good as well. It's at the end of the round, but this is something that I like to call protecting your jab or protecting your punches. That means that once you're done punching, assume something's going to come back. And if nothing does come back, that's still information for you to figure out what next shot you're going to throw. So if you notice, Bam's going to throw this jab, and once again, he's Southpaw. He's going to throw the right-handed jab on his front foot, and then after that, he's going to slip his head to the back foot or dip to a lower position on his back foot because he assumes something's going to come back from a counter position from Estrada, but he's also trying to set up his next shot as well. Let's watch that again. Just simple. That's what the greats do. They do the simple things over and over again, regardless of the distractions, regardless of the fatigue, anything, because those make a big deal. Those make a big difference in the fight. Just downloading information again. Seeing what Estrada's doing, seeing what shots he can get back once Estrada opens up, taking some half steps on the outside with his left foot, taking some steps back, circling as well. But Bam's right in the pocket with you. I mean, it seems like it's not hard to find him because he's right in front of you, but those small little footwork changes make a big difference. And so all that information that he got, all those punches he didn't throw, it allowed him to get to this point, right? So if we just go back and we watch that again, let's just look at all the information Bam gets by moving his feet, having his hands up at the same time, which is another great thing that Bam does. He uses his feet to move. He moves with his head as well, but he has his hands in place while he does it, just in case he's wrong, just in case a punch does come, so he can catch those on the glove. Another shot that wobbles Estrada. So that's another thing that we haven't talked about just yet. It's the nature of feints, right? So a feint would almost be defined as acting like you're punching. Right? Doing the things that makes it look like you're punching in order to get information. And it's really a question, right? So when you feint, you have to act as if you're going to get an answer, because if you get an answer and you're not ready, you're going to get cracked. So when you feint, you need to understand the answers that you might get back, right? And so that way, when you get that answer, you understand what to do next. So foot feints are a way to get that information, right? So it's using your feet to get in position the same way that you would punching without punching, and that's what Bam does. Just subtle little things as well, because this is a good movement by Estrada, because we want to watch both fighters and look at what we can and just use it as information, because that's what this film study is for. What can we take away from each fighter to improve ourselves as a fighter or as a boxer just in general? So if we just look at watching this as a fan, we may miss out on a lot of information that we get from these fighters if I'm just looking at watching what Bam's doing, or if I'm just looking at what Estrada's doing. I'm looking at what they both do. So watch when Estrada's going to look from a game plan standpoint, application standpoint, a different way that he's looking to attack Bam as he jabs. So he slips to the outside, and he looks to go ahead and shoot an uppercut at Bam, right? This is what Southpaws fighters do to Orthodox fighters a lot. But from a skill set standpoint, Bam does the correct thing. His right arm can no longer be used to block his face as much anymore because it's outstretched. So he now turns this into a stiff arm, a frame, whatever your coach calls it for in the system. So that way he controls Estrada's head to keep it on the outside in the same position where it's at, so it can't come back over to throw a big left hand at him. However, there's another looping shot that Estrada can go ahead and throw, and that's underneath. But if you see where Bam's glove is, it's there to protect that shot, because he can no longer block any left hands with his right hand because it's occupied from trying to throw that jab at Estrada. Let's look at that one more time. So 3 ways to defend: hands, feet, and head. So if you notice, what does Bam do? His front hand is not available. So front hand, which is his right hand, is not available to protect the shots that Estrada is going to throw. So what does he do? He starts moving his head to his back foot, which is a way to defend yourself. And he starts moving his feet away, which is another way to defend himself. And he also has his glove attached to his face to defend himself as well. In basketball, they call something called triple threat, right, which is the ability to pass, shoot, and dribble. In boxing, I like to use the phrase triple threat, where it's like you, no matter what position you get in, you have the ability to attack, defend, and move. And once again, from a defensive standpoint, you have 3 ways to defend, which is your feet, your hands, and your head. And what does Bam do well? He uses all 3. Like we're going to watch that combination again, but I do want to talk about these setups. Jab, looking at what Estrada does. After Bam jabs, what does Estrada do? He dips his head to the back foot. So after he dips his head to the back foot, he comes back to the front foot, but from a low position, because he was first on the back foot low, and he now moves to the front foot low. So when someone's head is low, what do? You lift it up with uppercuts. That's what Bam did. That is not the knockout punch, but this is almost like Street Fighter or any old fighting game that you see where there's a punch that opens things up, where now they got the little birdies around their head. This is almost like a guard breaker, because now if you notice, this sets up the next shot, because Estrada no longer has his hands. He realistically no longer has his eyes to see what next shots are coming. And then that's where now Bam uses the information that he got earlier in the fight, or in that same engagement, where he understands, when I throw my right hand, Estrada is now going to move his head to the back foot. So when I shoot this right hand, that's going to manipulate Estrada's head to go to the back foot. So I'm going to throw this left hand where Estrada's head is going to go, not where it is. And that's the shot that knocks Estrada down. So what was the difference in Estrada did and what Bam did when they almost were in similar situations? Bam moved his head to the back foot and he took his hands just in case. Estrada moved his head to the back foot and he didn't take his hands. So a punch came and he got clipped. those little subtleties once again, right? He got his feet in position to where they would be if he was going to throw a punch, but he didn't throw the punch. He just remained defensively accountable because it's risk versus reward. If he gets himself in those positions, he throws punches without getting information first, he might open up and get hit with something. So what does he do? He gets himself in position and remains defensively accountable so he can see if he can get into those positions again and actually attack this time. Let's watch that again. So what does he do? Shoots a jab, moves his head to the front foot, moves his head to the back foot again. If you're thinking about what does that look from actually throwing punches, it's move your head to the front foot and throw a left hand at the same time. It's move your head to the back foot and throw a right hand at the same time. So at that point, it's a straight left, right hook. Another big shot. If you guys remember the Tank fight, because this is once again about a skill set and how it's important for you guys to take this information and apply it to your everyday work to be able to do these things when you need to fight. So Bam is going to throw a lead hook and a rear uppercut, right? But it's important to understand where his head goes as he throws this rear uppercut and where his head, how his head gets there from the right hook. So it's very important, right? So pay attention to where Bam's head is when he shoots this left uppercut, right? He is not, if we could see his feet, he's not supposed to be turning his toe, right? The way he's supposed to be generating the power right now is because the right hook brought himself in a low position on the back foot. So now instead of going left to right or up to down, this rear uppercut is going at an angle so he can generate as much power as possible without changing his position back to the front foot. So hopefully you guys saw how that worked. And I paused it at a good time for you guys, but I want to say this so we remember as well. I'm going to show you guys how you throw that punch correctly and how you can practice it and how you need to do it over and over and over and over and over again till you can't get it wrong. Because understanding that if you don't throw that shot correctly, it can now get you in position to get hit with something because you're throwing the incorrect punch according to where your opponent's head is at. But we get right into footwork again where Bam's trying to set up another engagement. So that's the first time we saw Bam do that. Loma does that a lot. A lot of fighters do that a lot. Just understanding that when you change positions, you have the ability to throw a punch to change positions or throw a punch as you change positions, throw a punch from the position that you're in. And that goes from a left to right standpoint. That goes from up to down standpoint as well. So watch Bam kind of get to his front foot, be in a low position, explode from that low position to a high position to throw a lead left hand, which is a way to almost break up the timing of how you would normally throw a left hand. Because the timing of normally throwing a left hand is just throwing as you're moving from your back foot to your front foot from a southpaw fighter. So going from left to right and throwing the left. But this time he goes from left to right, dips, then throws the left hand. So it breaks up the timing and the rhythm of what Estrada is normally expecting to have thrown at him. So if you see, he changed positions first, then threw the left hand. The reason why that works as well is because from a fighting standpoint or point of view standpoint, his left shoulder is now somewhere different than it was when he was on his back foot. So he can shoot up straight in between Estrada's guard with this left hand. And so this is the first time he's done this in this fight, and this is information that he got. So watch how in the next engagement he goes right back to it again. Right back to it, but Estrada blocked it this time because there wasn't that. He was aware of it. So it's the nature of when you're fighting somebody, not teaching them how to fight as they're fighting you, because that is your highest chance of adaptation. That is the highest chance of fight or flight. That is your highest chance of survival. And so you'll adapt to what somebody's doing to you. You may forget it when you get out the ring, but you're going to adapt and adjust to what somebody's doing in the midst of the fight, and that's why they're pros. Uh-oh, Bam. So based on what you guys have already seen, what I've been talking about the entire film, study, or what I'm going to be talking about film studies going forward, because we want to get better at this stuff. Before we go back, what do you guys think happened? What was the reason why Bam got dropped? Now that you thought about it, you should understand what happened. And the clue is going to be, it happened to Estrada before. So is that not the same setup that Bam used on Estrada? If you reverse their stances, is this not the exact same thing? What was I praising Bam for in the beginning? That he had all three types of defenses that he used all at once, which means he got his head off the line, he was using his feet to go backwards, and he was taking his hands, right? The issue with this right now is there's something called humility. And the reason why we use humility in a fight is the same level of energy I had to get my feet out of range in the first round may not be available for me in the sixth round, because I've been fighting. I'm tired. I don't have those same energy levels. That's the nature of a fight. You're getting fatigued, right? So I can't assume that my feet are going to be working the same way in the sixth round that they did in the first. And I also can't assume that my opponent was moving as fast as they could in the first round, because they could be trying to set me up for something to get in the sixth round. Because had Estrada had a little bit more pop, had Estrada actually landed this shot exactly where he wanted to, this is the type of punch that ends a fight, where we don't even talk about a rematch with these guys where Bam's victorious. Didn't take his hands. And that is almost picture perfect setup, as you can say. The only difference is that Estrada needs to throw that right hand over his right toe a little bit more, because if you see, Bam's head is on his back foot. So the same way we talked about Bam throwing that shot where Estrada's head was going to be, not where it is, that's the same thing Estrada needed to do to Bam. Throw that right hand where Bam's head is going to be, not where it is, because it went from his front foot to his back foot. And if you notice, after this is over, Bam laughs a little bit, because he's probably like, you got me. And it's almost like one of those sayings where it's like, yo, players fuck up too. So if you see right again, Estrada try to ask again, like, yo, can I get back to that? Let me not throw the right hand again this time. Let me see if I can get back to that again, because if I landed it, I'm assuming Bam's going to try to counter me. But I still want to see, maybe can I get to that? Does Bam not understand why he got dropped? That's what Estrada's asking with that reset up. So this is why it's cool to film study, right? Because you get to see the combination of adjustments that fighters make that fast, right? So let's think of rhythms. Let's think of the cadence of fighting and what that means when we're doing type of combinations, right? So if I throw a double jab right hand, we can look at that from a cadence standpoint, being 1, 1, 1, right? So there's time in between each one of those punches where you are opened up as you're extending with those shots. And the reason why those double jabs sometimes are soft is because you understand that you can get caught in between those punches, right? But when you decide to shoot the right hand and you're deciding to put some pop on it, that is you committing. And when you fight, you're vulnerable when you extend your punches all the way, when you make a commitment of changing positions. So what was the adjustment, or what is the adjustment that Bam's going to make right now? He's going to choose to counter in between that 1, 1, 1. And I don't mean the 1, 1, 1 as far as the jab is what you would say when you're calling numbers for punches in boxing. I'm just having you guys understand the rhythm that these punches are being thrown. So if you see, it was 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So Bam decided to throw his rear uppercut before the last one, or before the right hand came. And it's the reason why Estrada's punch went outside and Bam's came up the middle before Estrada can throw that right hand. So that's the adjustment that Bam decides to make after the knockdown. And that's one of the reasons why Bam laughs, because he understood why he got hit and he understood how to deal with it. None of that is possible if you don't understand the principles of your system or whatever your coach teach, right? Understanding why you got hit and understanding and putting the accountability on yourself. Because now, if the accountability is on yourself, you can do something about it. You're the solution. And Bam's solution based off of this is to throw the rear uppercut right before he's throwing the right hand. That's one of my, those are the angles I like. Most of the time when people shift, when somebody's on the ropes, they shift and they give the person on the rope an exit because they ended up alongside of the person on the ropes as well. And they're almost parallel with each other where they're both on the ropes at the same time. But this shift to go from the outside as a southpaw fighter to now in the middle, that's the shift I like because it keeps your opponent on the ropes and you're not on the ropes. It doesn't really give them that much of an exit. So we'll watch that again. So shoots that right hand. So now he's on Estrada's right side. He moved from Estrada's left to his right side. And now shifts to his front foot again to be able to throw that lead uppercut and then get back straight. And if you notice, this keeps Estrada on the ropes as opposed to giving him an exit where Bam would be alongside Estrada as well. That right there is what we call skill stacking. And it's not only individual skill stacking, it is now counter stacking as well. Mixing in catching counters, mixing in foot counters, mixing in full pull counters, and making that a combination where you can now open up shots. See that? So the way it starts, and we'll go back and I'll pause and I'll explain off of each one. So first thing he's going to do, right? Pull counter to counter Estrada's right hand, right? And he's going to throw a rear uppercut off the pull counter. Now from here, if you notice, and we talked about that before, when Bam throws that rear uppercut, if we were able to look at his feet, we noticed that he's not turning the toe. And now this is a picture where you can see he doesn't turn the toe on that rear uppercut because he doesn't want to take his head to that new position just yet. So now he throws that rear uppercut. What he's been doing the whole fight, once he's done punching, his job is to make sure Estrada doesn't hit him. Estrada threw that right hand that brought him from his front foot to from his back foot to his front foot, which means now he's able to throw a left hook. And I want to have you guys see these positions as I say this. So let's just focus on Estrada's position right now. When he throws this right hand, it now brings his head over his front foot, which lines him up to be able to throw the next shot, which is a left hook. He hasn't thrown it yet, but that's the position that he's able to be in, right? Bam is going from his back foot to now be able to throw a rear uppercut. Once Bam is done throwing this rear uppercut, he is now going to change positions or shift, which he's good at, protect himself from this left hook that's coming from Estrada based on the position that he's in. And then now he's in the same position he was before when he did that pull counter. The only difference is Estrada is on the inside of him instead of the outside. So now we think of the great Pernell Whitaker. When you're on the inside of an Orthodox fighter and you're a southpaw, you throw those shots to the body, not to the head. And vice versa. If you're an Orthodox fighter that's on the inside of a southpaw fighter, you throw your rear uppercut to the body, not to the head. The only difference in this one is the liver is on your right side. So you can get to it with a left hand from the southpaw position, and you can get it from up the middle in between the elbows as opposed to outside. It's based on that engagement and how everything works. Those long type of engagements and those long type of choreography, it leaves you open because of the amount of risk that you take with not knowing completely what punches are going to come back and forth. That's why I don't really like those long type of engagements unless you're prepared for it in the gym, right? Because Estrada is going to take his right hand outside, and if you notice, his glove is around Bam's outside to throw a shot, and Bam just shoots up the middle. Fight over. We'll end it there. Comment below what y'all want to see in the next film study, in the next Film Doesn't Lie episode. And we can watch anything. We're going to watch some sparring videos. We're going to watch some training videos. We're going to watch a lot of videos because the film doesn't lie, and it gives you a lot of information to make yourself a better fighter and a better boxer and just better overall. So I'll see y'all in the next one.